Everyone. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Nicole Bush. I'm with Alumni Career and Professional Development here at Tulane Alumni Relations, and we're happy to have you maybe taking your lunch hour, maybe a little earlier, depending on where you were. We're so excited to have one of our alums with us today, Maury Schwartz. She is President and CEO of Career Insiders. She's also a member of our Career Coach Network, and she is going to be sharing some information with you today on how to get your foot in the door. Just the logistics, just so you know, we are recording this session and it will be available online afterwards. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please send them in the chat box to me. Again, Nicole Bush, BUSH. And with that, I will hand it over to Maury because she has a lot of information to share with you. Thanks so much, Maury, for doing this today.
Thank you, Nicole. It's my pleasure. It's always fun to talk about what I do. And it's always fun to help people get jobs. That's my whole purpose. Well, not entirely my whole purpose in life. As you guys can see behind me, I have San Francisco Giants tickets from our championship seasons. And I was just telling Nicole that that's on my mind right now since we're in the playoff season. But we're going to all get into the playoffs in terms of getting our job, and we're going to win. We're going to be the champions. So thanks for coming today. I am going to be taking questions. Nicole is going to run interference for me, and I'm gonna speak rather rapidly because there's a lot to get across, and I just want to help you. So basically, I want to say, I don't know where you all are in terms of your job search, whether you're recent grads, whether you're mid-career, whether you're later in your career. You're here because you want to learn how to improve your job search so that you can actually get the job. And today we're going to focus on how to get your foot in the door. I hear all the time how job seekers are going, I applied to 10 jobs yesterday and 15 the day before, and so many last week and the week before, and I have only heard back from one or two people. I've had no interviews yet, etc. I'm not hearing back. I feel like my resume is going into this deep dark hole of nowhere. Well, the focus today is how do you improve your chances of getting feedback, getting the right person to read your resume so that the right person can determine whether you're right for the job. So that's what we're going to do. Thanks for coming. Here we go. So basically, you want to target your search and target your audience. So when you're looking at job postings, really focus on the posting to see if it's something you can do. Now, I'm not one that says you have to be able to tick off every single box on the requirements, but you need to be pretty close. You need to be able to figure out from that job posting from an objective point of view, not within yourself, but an objective, figure out what is it they're really looking for. And if you can't do one of the top 4 items on the responsibilities list or one of the top 4 things on their requirements list, then perhaps that's not the job for you because, somebody else is likely to have that. Even in this time when we all hear companies are having trouble finding great candidates, they're still being very, very picky. So that's basically, really what you're dealing with. And also what I'm going to teach you today means it's going to take you a lot more time to apply for each position than it normally would. The easy thing to do is just to say, okay, I did 10 jobs today. I applied, I clicked, I used the same resume and the same cover letter, and I did it. It's a numbers game. Well, it's not a numbers game. It's a little bit of a numbers game, meaning you can't just do one and wait, but you really need to make it a more of a quality versus a quantity approach. So that's why you really want to target the jobs you apply for and target your audience. So you want to, once that means you're going to tailor your resume so that it matches what they're looking for. That means you will not send exactly the same resume and the same cover letter for every position, unless they're exactly the same, but they're going to be different companies. So your cover letter is going to have a little more in it. We're going to not spend so much time on cover letters today, though, unless we have time at the end. So basically, let's talk about customizing your resume. You want to identify their priorities. So again, be objective. And if you can't be objective, ask a friend of yours to look at that job posting and say, okay, tell me what you think this job is and what it is that if I were hiring for that position, what would I want in a candidate? What would make me happy if I saw on a resume? and so on a candidate. So think of it that way. Try to get outside of yourself and not think about, I want to do this job and, you know, why not try for it? Well, I'll tell you why not try for every job, because you and everybody else does that, and it makes the burden on the people on the other end a lot greater, which means it's even less likely that your resume is going to get pulled out of the bunch. And so basically, I'll start out here, and I'll do some prefacing by saying that you probably all know now that your resume, when you apply online, and it goes into an applicant tracking system of some kind. The most sophisticated versions will actually have the computer will automatically match resumes to the job posting, and so they're matching language in the resume to the job posting, and you have to have a certain percentage of it before you even come up when the recruiter opens up that job to say, okay, today I'm going to recruit for this job. Then, you know, the system is going to determine which resumes they see. The less sophisticated systems at the other end, the recruiter puts in keywords to search the resumes that are all in their database for a certain job, and they're looking for certain keywords. So either way, you have to match the language that they have, and either way, the recruiter is probably going to have way more resumes than they can actually read. They're not going to read all of them. So if you don't hear back, or you just get a canned response back, it doesn't necessarily mean that you were rejected. It may mean that nobody's ever even seen your resume, not even the recruiter. It's like you're trying to get in the front door with 100 other people at the same time. You're all pushing through. So by applying online the way they tell you to, you put your proxy there, but then you take, you know, your out-of-body experience and you go walk around the building and see if you can find another door in that's not so crowded. Okay, so the way you want it, the first thing you need to do is, let's assume that they're going to see your resume, and then we'll get to the rest of it. Identify their priorities. So go back to the job posting. What are their top 4 or 5 requirements? What are the things that you have to have, or a candidate has to have? Again, what would you look for based on that job posting? Identify those priorities. Make it easy for them to see that you're the one they're looking for. I sort of look at a resume with the style of People Magazine or USA Today. People read those, especially when they're picking them up waiting in well, it used to be a doctor's office, but now they don't have any magazines because everybody's on their phone. But wherever you are waiting, you're going to pick up something that's easy to read, not a New Yorker, not a Vanity Fair, because those articles just go on for days. So you save them for vacation. So you don't want your resume to get saved for vacation. So you're going to have to make it easy for them to see on that resume that you have their top 3 to 5 priorities. Speak the same language. Like I said a few minutes ago, you want to make sure that your resume is coming up when they do the search with the right keywords, the right language. And no, don't just have a paragraph or a section on your resume with all the possible keywords you could think of. That's what some people do. But what you really want to do is they're not reading that. Yes, it might come up on the thing, but then somebody's going to read it, and they're going to want to see their language. So if they call certain types of documents or certain types of processes one thing, and the company where you've worked, they call, you've got on your resume that's something else, change your language so they can understand you. You translate, they're not going to. Highlight your relative achievements at the top. So what do you want to, with those priorities, the top 3 to 5 priorities, what you want to do is, for each one of them that you've identified, write a statement that would illustrate to them that you got that covered, that you meet that. And those 3 to 5 bullet points will go at the top of your resume. Now you can call them a summary of qualifications. You can call it qualifications. You can call it a profile, but put them at the top. And then, so depending on whether you're just getting a degree, whether it's an undergraduate or a graduate degree, usually when you're a recent grad, you put your education at the top. In this case, you put these bullets first and then your education. I know that the Career Center probably tells you something a little different, but at any rate, if you are continuing, if you're mid-career and you're not a recent graduate, your education goes at the bottom. So you want to highlight these achievements so the first things they see are what you're telling them. Omit information that's not relevant. So let me use quickly use another another analogy. These people, the people on the other end, they've got a shopping list, and they go in, they have 5 items, let's say, on their shopping list. And maybe they have 10, but they're really the top price. They're going to focus on the ones they need the most. So they go into the store. If they go into Walmart and they need 5 things, and Walmart has, I don't know how many, 4 million, whatever their number of products is, it's going to be harder to find, even with the labels at the top of the aisles. If they're not familiar with that store, it's going to be hard to find. You don't want to be Walmart. You want to be the specialty store down the street. They're going to go into the arts and supplies store because they need art supplies. They don't need to go to Walgreens for those art supplies. So even in today's shopping world, when it's harder to get those specialty stores, and they're fewer and far between, that's what you want to think about. So think of that, even if it's an old analogy, and think of it, if you're not applying, you're not going shopping online, you're just doing it this way. So that means omit information that's not relevant. If you might have some cool things in your background, but if they have absolutely nothing to do with the job you're applying for, leave them off, because they are going to get in the way. So you may have older jobs on your resume, and for the older jobs on your resume, you will want to have less information. They're really interested in the past 5 to 10 years. So you have less information on the older positions, and try to focus for every position on the parts of your job that are relevant. Okay. And so let's go forward. So let's think about it. You're a star. Every single one of you is a star. I'm a star too. So and Nicole is a star, and Sarah's a star. We're all stars. So not only are we stars, and we're going to be a star in that job search and getting the job, but there's a reason I've got this up here other than just to stroke you. And that is because this is how you want to present information on your resume. You want to be able to have them understand the situation, the task, your task, accomplishment, what you did, and what the result was. Now, so many people forget the result. You really have to, on your resume, and again in interviewing. So all of these things that I'm teaching about your resume, they're going to be applicable to interviewing too. So you get to use it all over again. So you want to make sure they understand the situation you're in, what you were supposed to be doing, what you did, and don't forget the result. What was the impact you had on the company? People hire people on the basis of past performance, predicting future performance. So they want to know what you did that helped previous organizations you worked for, or your current organization. So if you're just starting out, if you've got any kind of work experience or any kind of school project experience, what difference did you make that the other person that could have held the job, may not have done? So we'll talk a little bit of how to convey that. And you're going to do this because these are like single statement bullet points in some cases. So then another way, you may have heard SOAR, which I also like. That's a very positive term. And the only difference here is that it's obstacle instead of task. What was the problem? Which leads me to say some people call it PAR, which is problem, action, result. But in every single one of these acronyms, the R is there for result. So, and the action, what did you do, and what did you fix? What did you solve? Wherever you can, quantify that difference. You have to spell that out. You can't just assume they know. If you put in a new process that everything was fine, you could have put in a new process that took longer, cost more money, made things worse, whatever. We don't want to talk about those. You might have some of those, activities in your background, but you only want to talk about the ones that were positive. So you want to show how to measure them. Use metrics whenever possible. Sometimes those, so here, did you generate new revenues? How much? How much more? So sometimes you're more impressive with a percentage than a dollar amount. If you've been working in an organization and where it's a very small organization and you saved, $2 million quarterly or annually, that's huge. That could be huge. But if you're applying for a job in a big organization, $2 million annually, may seem like peanuts. So in that case, you're going to want to maybe use a percentage. How much did you save? Maybe you saved 25% on an annual basis. That's pretty good, right? So think about those things. Did you decrease cost? How much? Did you lessen the time it takes to get a process done? Did you speed up delivery to customers? Did you, if you're an engineer, maybe did you figure out a way to develop the product more with a higher quality? How much did you improve quality? Did you create something new that didn't exist, like a new process? And what was the impact of that new process? Innovate, same idea. Change the way things are done. Again, you're going to be competing with other people, so you want to make sure they know how you made an impact. I can't illustrate that, or I can't express that enough, emphasize that enough. Okay, so here we are back to the line, back to the waiting at the line, like trying to get into a concert or a movie, or in the old days. I mean, I don't know where you all are and what things are like in terms of COVID restrictions and everything. I'm in San Francisco. We had a long shutdown, and then another, and we have restrictions on where you can go and things like that. And we've been pretty good, actually. We have one of the lowest case rates and one of the lowest death rates and one of the highest vaccination rates. So that enables me to go to the Giants games in a full stadium. Anyway, I'm stuck on that. So anyway, don't hold your breath, find another way in. So you've got the perfect resume. We spent some of this time on that. And so learning to get your foot in the door. So you could say, well, up till now, okay, all I've done is learned how to make a better resume. I still don't know how to get it into the right hands. Well, I just wanted to do that first so we could focus on the rest of this part, because once somebody looks at it, whether it's a recruiter or the hiring manager, you're going to want it. They don't give you much time. They have short attention spans. You want to take advantage of every second you get. So how do you get your foot in the door? Act like a salesperson. So this whole other stuff we've done with your resume, that's like you created a marketing collateral. You created a brochure for yourself. So that was all marketing. You targeted your market. You said the right things. Okay, now the other part of marketing and sales, the marketing is to, who is it that I'm going to focus on? It's not just the screener. So you're going to act like a salesperson. Identify the decision maker. So a salesperson, some of you may be in sales, I hope so. So you know this already. A good salesperson knows that they need to have the attention of the decision maker. That if they could, if they're calling in person, or if they're calling on the phone, or if they're emailing, whoever if they're calling on the phone, they're getting the person who answers the phone, if anyone answers the phone in a company these days. But the analogy still works, so stick with me, please. So they're going to get and that's a gatekeeper. It's always nice to make friends with everybody in a company, and as you step trying to get to the decision maker, but don't spend an inordinate time on that, and don't depend on that person to do your job for you. You are not going to make a sale until you're confronting the decision maker. And I don't mean confront in a bad way. I just mean until you're talking with them. So you're going to have to be a little bit of a sleuth to do this. So you're going to have to figure out who the decision maker is. The hiring manager. So the recruiter and HR, they're the gatekeepers. Unless you're applying for a job in HR, then you've got a little of both. You probably have your gatekeeper on the front end, and you've got the hiring manager who's also HR. But basically, the recruiting staff, they're gatekeepers, and that machine, that AI, that applicant tracking system, that's the biggest gatekeeper you have. So you're going to turn yourself from being a marketer to a salesperson. Now you're a detective. Okay, so you're going to do some little research. And here we've got LinkedIn. And we're going to use LinkedIn to do this. Now, if you're looking at a small company, a startup, you can go to the company's website and see who the players are. And that's pretty cool. But by doing it using LinkedIn, first of all, if it's a bigger organization like the one we're looking at here, it's going to be harder. You're not going to see all the right people on the website. You're just going to see the high-level executives. That may work in a small company, but it's not going to work in a big company. The other thing is you'll be able to see, when you identify the hiring manager, you're going to be able to see, who do I know that knows them through LinkedIn? Okay, so that's a good thing. You can maybe try to, have a relationship with that person. So here's the job we're working with today. Here's my example. It's a program manager at Qualcomm. That's a big company. It's actually headquartered in San Diego, I think, but they have a lot of people here in the Bay Area. So I applied for the job already. I applied online. I did whatever they told me to do. I did what I told you to do, which is I customized my resume. I have a cool resume, my cover letter, and actually they may not have asked for a cover letter. They don't anymore, and if it's optional, then don't include it because it's not going to be read. Okay, so here, what I looked at, I wanted to look through the whole job, and I'm not showing you the whole job. I'm just showing the top part of it. And I wanted to look, is there anything in this position that tells me where in this huge company it's going to sit? I mean, program managers are, first of all, they could be in a big company. There are probably tons of them. There are probably dozens of program managers in different places. Where in this big company is it? So how am I going to find the hiring manager if I don't know where it sits and what department? So good news is they tell me right here, it's in the engineering services group. Now, this example is going to be pretty straightforward. They're not always that way. Now, another thing to look for in the job posting, many times, not most of the time, but often enough, they will say, this job reports to the VP of XYZ. This job reports to something else. So, title. In that case, you're in great shape, and you'll see just in a second why that is. But they don't usually do that. So we're not going to use an example that's that easy. Okay, so what I did, let's go back. What I did was in LinkedIn, I clicked on the name of the company here, and it takes me to the company page on LinkedIn. And guess what? How are we going to find these people? They have 39,000 employees. So that's going to be pretty amazing. Now it says I'm connected to 2 people who work there. Now, so I could say, well, maybe Qualcomm has an internal bonus referral, and I want to talk to one of these 2 friends of mine. So that's something else you can do, but you've already applied anyway, right? So you've already gone through the application process. You're already in there without there being a referral for you. So let's continue to this. So you're going to click on the employees. It'll be a hyperlink. So you click on that, and here we go. Now we're looking at all the employees who work there who are on LinkedIn. That's a lot. LinkedIn's not going to let you see all 39,000, even if you wanted to go through them one by one. We don't want to do it. And who knows how they order them. I used to think they'd ordered them and maybe based on relationship. But you saw that I had 2 people who were first level connections, and they don't show up at the top. But we're not going to look through all of these. So what we will do though is we'll look at. So I have this little thing that says you're screen sharing right where I want to be right here, but you're going to look at, you can probably see it says filters there. Nicole, nod your head if you can see filters. Thank you. Okay, so you're going to click on filters, and basically these are things you can search on. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn. It's extremely useful tool. It's great for research. It's great for connecting, but it doesn't do everything I want it to do. And I refuse to advise my clients to pay for a premium account because they do offer a 30-day free trial. I definitely do that, but I see no reason to pay them. So anyway, so here we go. So what I want to do in the filters, it had some other filters. So I scrolled down a little bit to get to where it says current company. Above it was location. So I could have said, I could have put in San Jose, but companies like this, the manager and the job may not sit in the same place. And in fact, these days, a lot of these are remote. So the first thing it asked, the first filter was connections. Did I want to search only my first level connections? And I just left that blank. And then I left the location blank, but I want to make sure the current company is clicked, Qualcomm. So it came from Qualcomm, from the company page, and it's got some other sort of subsidiaries, but I really want to make sure that I'm going for the main company. And I don't want it to, sometimes if this isn't clicked, then you want to make sure it is, or add it again, even though it should be there. So, or if you come into this people search from another way, because you only want to search through people who currently work there. You don't want it to be someone who's got Qualcomm as a previous job on their profile, because that won't help you identify the current decision maker, will it? All right, so here we go. So then we scroll down a little bit more, and then you've got some other keywords, but or filters. But I'm looking, so far I've only looked at 2 of the filters. One is the name of the company for current, and the other one is the title. So if I did know the whole title right here where it says title, I would put that in, VP of Program Management, but we don't know that. But I did remember I noted that it was in the engineering services area. So I go, okay, I'm going to go that way. So it could be that program management people report up to a different structure than the engineering services, but they're going to be serving the people in this business unit. So I think this is a likely place that we're going to do it. Again, it's a sleuth. You might not find it on the first try. I told you I was going to show you one that was relatively easy so you could see it be successful. You may, just like when you do Google searches and everything, you might have to play around with this and really look at that job posting for something that gives you an indication of where it sits, what kinds of, and maybe it's on a certain product and they'll tell you it's on a product team. I know, like when in Google and Facebook and places like that, the job postings will tell you generally what product area it's working in. The job is going to be in. Okay, so here we go. So then you probably already know that with LinkedIn, you can't just press enter and have it go. There's a button down here that says update or show results or something like that. And here we have the results. So we went from 39,000 to 4 people. Now, it could be that this didn't give me anything like I wanted, but I'm going to go with it because we've got a director of engineering services at Qualcomm, Jorge Rosales. The other people, this is if I didn't have him, I might look at Arturo to see what his title is, what his actual job is. These other people are in Jakarta and Hungary, and they're look like individual contributors. So I'm not gonna look at them either. So I'm going for Jorge. Now, it could be that there's more than one director of engineering services at Qualcomm, and because again, it's a big company, and they may have multiple directors reporting up to a senior director or a VP. But what we've got is this: if you found 2 people, and you go, well, I can't decide whether it's Jorge or Arturo, then you can do what I'm going to show you how to do to both of them separately, but at the same time. Okay, so here's Jorge. Let's look at his profile. So first of all, I noted that he's a 3rd level connection. If he were a 1st level, then I'd go, duh, why didn't I know that already? I'm just going to call Jorge and say, hey, look, I'm interested in this job. But that's probably not likely in this case. So he could be a 2nd level. In that case, I would say, who do I know who knows Jorge? Who do I know who I could ask to introduce me? A warm introduction is better than a cold call. We all know that, and it's much more comfortable for us to do. Sadly, but even when you have 2nd level connections, you really need to look at them to say, okay, here, Martha is connected to Jorge. I could ask her to introduce it, but she is mad at me forever. So I don't think I'm going to ask Martha to introduce me, because I don't think it'd be a good one. So you have to use some judgment on that, on whether you use your 2nd level or not. But anyway, it turns out Jorge is 3rd level, so we're going to have to go straight to him. So this is where you don't have a warm connection. You're going to have to introduce yourself. So it is a cold call, but believe me, it's not going to hurt you. Don't be afraid to do this. We're all nervous. We're all afraid to reach out to strangers. But believe me, it's just, it can't hurt you. I mean, first, if you keep bothering Jorge over and over and over again, then it could bother you, because then he would remember who you are as a pest. But if you just do it once, he may even miss it. So, because I'm going to recommend some things on how to do it, and we'll talk more about that. So, but the one thing I want to do before I contact Jorge is I want to look at his total profile. And again, I'm not going to show you his whole profile, but basically I look through his profile. Maybe I have something else in common. I don't know anybody that he knows. but maybe I have something else in common with Jorge. Maybe we went to, the same school. Maybe we worked at a previous company at the same time, or just at the previous company at different times. That something when I contact him that I can use to show that we have something in common, that we have something that I have something that's familiar to him. It makes you, takes the chill off of that cold call a little bit, makes it a little cool, not cold. Maybe he's got an extracurricular activity down in his volunteer section on his profile that matches something you do. Like he's been really involved as a coach with Special Olympics, and so have you. So those are some things that you can think about to make that message something, to make it a warmer message. So here, be a sleuth here. So this is basically what I just said. Do some research, try to give someone who can find you, give you a warm introduction, introduce yourself, figure out their email address. Okay, this is the new part. I remember I said I have a love-hate relationship with LinkedIn. I've been doing some polling lately. My contention has been for a long time that you have a higher probability of getting a positive response if you email someone than if you send them, than you do it through LinkedIn. And of course, it depends on the person. But a lot of people, especially the more senior they get, the less likely they are to even look at messages coming from connection requests or things coming from LinkedIn, but they will be checking their email. So I've been doing some polling because some people say they would rather get them through LinkedIn. But then let's look at the thing. How do you actually contact them through LinkedIn? If you have a basic account, you don't get in-mail. So the only way you can reach out to that person, unless they're one of the very few people that says anybody can send me a message, then which you can't count on because it's not likely to be the case, then I don't advise asking someone to connect who you don't know. Because think of it this way, when you ask a stranger to connect, you're asking them to share their network with you. You're a stranger. That's a little presumptuous. And you go, why would I connect with someone I don't know? And so that's not really the best way to put your, the way to put your best foot forward in that, meeting that person. On the other hand, here's when I have an exception to that. That is, if that hiring manager has all over the top of their profile that they're hiring, and maybe they have one of those little, I think it's a blue ribbon on it that says hiring, or something at the top of their profile says we're hiring, then go ahead and do it because they're hoping to get people and they're advertising it on LinkedIn. Now, the other thing about sending a connection request is you have very limited amount of space for text and you can't attach your resume. So you'll have to make sure that your profile on LinkedIn matches the resume you want them to see. And then you write something short and sweet and use that piece of familiarity in there if you can and tell them what you're applying for. That's about all you can get in there. So they are hiring, they're likely to look at it. That's a good thing to do. But most of the time, that's not the case. And the email is, for now, the email is still better. Even if you have a basic account, and I don't recommend that in the cases where you're not going to ask them to connect with you, then you're left with no other way to get to them through LinkedIn. If you do have, if it's your 30-day free trial and you get a certain number of in-mails, then you could do it that way, and you can attach your resume. So you could go that way, but make sure, so you would put the body of your personalized warm cover letter in that LinkedIn in-mail message, and then attach a PDF of your resume. They'll have your LinkedIn profile also. In all cases, they need to match up, especially with dates and job titles and companies and so forth. But I still think for now, trying to do it by email is a higher probability of getting something now. So you have to figure out their email address. Now here's your email to them could go into their junk mail. They never see it. It could end up in their inbox. They see it and they delete it because they don't want to deal with it. They've got recruiters who are doing that. It could go into their inbox and they see it and they don't want to deal with it, but they know they forward it to the recruiter. Well, that's good for you because even if they don't even haven't even looked at it and don't even judge your resume or say anything positive, they send it to the recruiter's going to put that at the top of their list. They're going, oh, that came from the hiring manager. Even if they didn't say anything, I'm going to look at that one. Because they don't know whether the hiring manager thought it was good or not. The hiring manager, another choice, that could look at it and then send it to the recruiter saying, oh yeah, I like this person, call them. Or they could respond themselves. So it could help you a lot. It's not going to hurt you. Again, unless you keep badgering those people. You will want to follow up in a week if you haven't heard back, but that's it. Okay. Put your cover letter into the body of an email, and the same as you would an email, and attach only your resume as a PDF. So this way you'll be submitting your resume more than once for this job. You did it already the way they told you to online. You're sending it to Jorge. You might be sending it to Arturo too. If you're doing it to more than one hiring manager, don't tell them you've applied online. Don't tell them you've sent it to someone else. Because it's not that you're going to lie later on, but if you send it to a hiring manager and they know you applied online, they're just going to ignore it because they're busy. They're going to let somebody else take care of it. So that's the idea there. So, okay, so we're gonna have some time in a few minutes to ask questions. If you have questions about this, I've gone through this really fast, and I'm gonna sort of move on from that and talk a little bit about, so how do you get such great capability out of LinkedIn, and how do you have more people to give you warm introductions? Well, you've heard this already, and network like crazy. So many ways to network. Even during COVID, for my business, I used to go to networking events all the time. And I loved it because I liked having cocktail hour with people and having little appetizers and meeting new people and moving around. And my office was downtown. The events were usually downtown. So it was fun. So it took some adapting for me to be stuck at home by myself and do it online. But I ended up doing there are a lot of networking types of categories. There are tons of meetups. I even held a meetup for every week for a year with job search Q&A. And it attracted, sometimes a small group, sometimes a larger group. We exchanged ideas. They met each other. I answered questions. So there are all sorts of ways that you can network, doing it by, sometimes in your locality and according to your field, according to your other interests. People even think people you meet socially can end up being good referrals for jobs. So this is just showing you some diagrams. One of the things you can do in LinkedIn is to join groups, and of course the first group you want to join is the Tulane University Alumni Association, and within Tulane there are even other groups. Excuse me, let me have a little bit of water. I'm getting kind of dry. You'll see down here that I posted this event day before yesterday. So I don't know if any of you saw it, but I've been a member for a while. I don't know why I waited to 2008, unless there wasn't one until then. But at any rate, so this is just to say, join the Tulane group. You can join up to 50 groups at a time. Now it's held to manage 50 groups, and I don't do it, but I belong to close to that many. Because when you belong to a group, most groups, not all of them, but most groups will let members contact each other by an in-mail type of messaging within the group. So you can look at the members of the group. If you find that we could go way back up to Jorge, under his name, it would have told me if we belong to any of the same groups. So definitely if, they belong to Tulane, well, you'll have already seen that he went to Tulane University if that were the case. But, if we belong to some of the same groups, then you might be able to get to Jorge through a group message. So or go down to you should be able to see on Jorge's profile what groups he belongs to. Maybe you want to join some of the same groups or at least one of the same groups he belongs to. Okay, so that's the networking part. What this does, it increases the capability of your searches on LinkedIn of producing something usable. and for giving you, it's like a big database. The bigger your network is, the bigger access you have, the closer those, the more likely you're going to get a second level connection to someone. Okay, so I'm just going to move on a little bit. So you, when you are networking, right? You're going to these meetings and everything, and some people, they used to say, okay, when you're looking for a job, send out a message to in the old days before they call, but send out a message to everybody everybody in your network, that network that we never seem to cultivate until we actually need a job. So wherever you are in your job, never stop doing this. When you start a new job, connect with your colleagues on LinkedIn. Yes, you'll be able to get them in the company, but just keep that going. When you meet new people, connect on LinkedIn. So, but they used to say, again, send out a message, tell everybody you're looking for a job, give them, maybe send your resume, give them some ideas of what you're looking for, or better yet, say, do you know of any jobs for me? And that makes it really, really hard for somebody in your network, and they feel bad. So a lot of times I've heard people say, I sent out messages to everybody, and I was surprised by how few responses I got. People I used to work with, and they didn't even respond. Well, here's the thing. If you get that, if you get something from a friend that says, I need a job, do you have a job for me? Then you don't have a job for them, but you don't know how to answer. You could just say, I don't have a job for you, but tell me more. You could respond, I don't know of anything, but tell me more about what you're looking for, etc. So you've put too big of a burden on that person, and they don't know. Most people don't even say those. They don't know how to answer you. They don't know how to say no, so they don't say anything. I mean, it's just like the ghosting, right? So they ghost you, and they go, I don't know how to say I'm not interested in going out with you anymore. I don't know how to say I want to break up. I don't know how to say a lot of things. They're too uncomfortable, so I just won't say anything. And that's just awful, isn't it? It's an awful feeling. So don't invite them to ghost you. So don't ask for a job, and don't ask for an informational interview. Let's say you have people that work in certain companies, or you meet somebody and you want to actually talk to them more. Don't ask for an informational interview. And everybody in career centers, they've said, ask for informational interviews. And now you're telling me, don't ask for an informational interview. Okay, don't ask for an informational interview. What do you ask for? Ask for chat. Okay, it is the informational interview, but an informational interview sort of implies that you want to talk to them for an hour or for a half hour. You're really expecting them to have a job, and they still feel uncomfortable because they have to commit too much. So what you want to do is you want to go after your network, and you want to ask them for the easiest thing possible. It's back to the easy thing of making it easy for the hiring manager to see on your resume. Don't make them have to work too hard. People do want to help. So they do want to help you. So you want to make it easy for them. A chat implies a shorter amount of time, right? Don't even ask for coffee anymore, because that sometimes requires people to go somewhere or whatever, and we're doing everything online. But if they come back and say, yes, let's get together for a coffee, you can sort of wait till they say that. Just say, do you have time? Do you have some time to chat with me about what it's like to work at company ABC? And you go, here's some times I'm available. Give them some options, and they could come back and say, and you don't have to say I'm free all day every day this week. Just give them some time selection. And if they come back and say, well, I'm not, those times don't work for me, then you say, okay, well, what does work for you? So ask for a chat. That's easy. Everybody wants to help, but they need to be asked something that's easy for them to do. And then you can grow that. You can talk about it. And when you do ask them if they know about job, be very specific. So you could ask when you move further down the process. When you apply for a job, let's say we went to the thing, we found like that Jorge was a second level connection. We had somebody great. Martha really doesn't hate me. She likes me. And so I'm going to ask Martha to introduce me. So I'm asking Martha for something specific. And I don't ask her to think about how she can help me. You know what I'm saying? I give her a very specific, discrete request. This is the task you can do to help me if you're so willing and you can and you feel comfortable doing it. She might say, well, I don't really know him, we just met somewhere, and he, I don't think my introduction would help. But you're again making it easy. You're not making them do the thinking for you. Okay, so that's what you want to do, and you just keep moving the process. And when you do networking is not a one-way street. You don't want to, and one of the reasons it's hard to ask for something from someone is because you feel like you're imposing on them. Well, if you're used to doing things for other people, then it's going to be easier for you to ask. So doing something for someone automatically makes them want to return the favor. So you just, first of all, if you have a job and when you get your new job, don't ever refuse somebody asking you for these things. It's easy to do. Don't get pressured into doing something you can't do. If they ask you for something too big, you can say, I can't do that, but I can do this. Let's talk. Okay, so at least do whatever you can for them. You get busy and you go, I don't have time for that. Always make time, because now when the shoe's on the other foot and you need that, you want to be able to feel good. Oh, I do this all the time. And, or I did that. I showed that person at our previous job how to use Excel, and they got a promotion. So I know I can go ask them for something. So that's all it is. And, it's not, people really do want to help. Okay. But you got to make it easy for them to do it. So that's kind of where we are. I had some information about interviewing, but I figured that we're going to not have enough time because we have about 10 minutes. We can do some questions. And I already told you that if you're preparing for an interview, go back to the beginning of this where I said target, and look at that job posting, identify the top 3 to 5 priorities, write out statements that indicate that you fulfill those priorities. That will be the basis of everything you say in an interview and how you answer every question. Anyway, thank you for listening. You've been delightful. I've seen no hands raised, but that isn't allowed here. I've seen no frowns, but I can only see Nicole, Sarah, and Tyler Young's pictures. So nobody has frowned yet. Nicole was helpful. She smiled a few times. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much, Maury. That was great. I actually want to go back to something you said. I'm going to start with a question. When you were talking about reaching out, and encouraging people to do so and not be shy about it, I totally agree. But what is the difference between what's okay, how often someone can reach out? Like, how do they avoid badgering? At what point does it become badgering? Because we get a lot of questions about that.
Are you talking about following up when you don't hear back from them? Or are you talking about continually asking the same person for favors?
I'm talking about following up when you haven't heard back from someone.
Okay, so let's say you've applied, you've sent Jorge an email, and and you're doing that pretty much right after you've applied online. There's no need to wait, and a week goes by. A week's a good time frame. What I would do then is I would take that same message that I already sent Jorge, and I would forward it to him again with a brief message up at the top. So he's getting the same message again, the resume and what you've already said. And he knows that it's something you sent before. And I would say, hi, Jorge, I know you've been really busy. I just want to make sure that, that you were able to see my message from before, and then leave it at that. And then because, I'm one of these people that I get busy. These emails, they get down in my inbox and I don't see them anymore. So if somebody comes back to me and, sort of gives me a little nudge, I go, okay, this time I'm going to respond. So that's fine. If you don't hear from that one, then, I would just, either find someone else you can reach out to, or leave it alone. So that's not too many times.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions? You can certainly forward them to me, and then I can.
There's some in the chat, something in the chat. Let's see what they are.
They're asking about, will the slides be available?
Okay.
And this will be posted online. So
all right.
Just so that everyone knows.
No questions?
That's good.
Is it?
How can we follow? How can we follow up, Maury? If someone has questions, what is the best way for them to connect with you? How should they follow up with you?
Email me, please. There it is, Maury@careerinsiders.com. And if I don't respond in a week, in a few days, you could say, Maury, I emailed you. So I will respond though, and I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be on vacation from the 13th to the 20th. So I might not respond during that week, but I'm happy to talk with you. Happy to work with you one-on-one. You get a good deal from being a Tulanian to work with me. So, but I'm also happy to ask and, talk about this presentation with anybody.
Yes, and if anyone else, as I mentioned in the beginning, Maury is part of our Career Coach Referral Network, and you can find out more information about that program by visiting our website, alumni.tulane.edu/careers, and go into the career exploration pages, and you'll be able to find some more information on that. So if no one has any other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. And thank you all again so much for attending. Thank you, Maury. That was really great advice. Really love hearing it. I loved your approach. So thank you so much. And see us again. We'll have these professional development series every Wednesday for the rest of the year, for sure, through December 8th, through this year. And then we'll be able to see them online as well. So thanks so much. Look out for the next one. And we hope to see you again.